to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Okay. Looks like we have an addition to the agenda for under personnel, Linda Drennan, food service substitute. Any other changes?
There are not.
So just need a approval.
Kelly moves for approval.
Kelly moves.
I'll second. Kelly, second.
Kelly seconds. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Mrs. Hutley.
I don't have anything to add to my written report unless you have any questions. I guess I should say we postponed at best the state qualifiers for cross country, the state volleyball team, and I was even gonna ask the football team to come and be recognized by the board this year, but we decided with everything going on, probably best to wait, so that's why they're not here.
Okay. Mr. Nisley, you have anything?
I do not have anything to add, but here for questions if you have any.
All right, thank you. Moving on then to the consent agenda. Any questions or comments about the consent agenda? Jim, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yep. Okay. If there's no questions, then I just need a motion to approve.
A motion to approve.
Callie moves
I'll move to approve.
and Jim seconds.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, old and new business. Barney and Associates.
Yeah, we've got Jessica here from Barney, and I'm sorry the back and forth here. Tony's trying to get on the Zoom meeting, so. But Jessica's here and she will hand out our audits. And while she is, I really want to thank you, Jessica. Cheryl and Janice and our secretaries and everyone. She'll be talking about clean audit, great stuff. So always appreciative of that. But so typically there are things that we've got to do that make some different adjustments within budgets and some other things, and all those things were well, I don't want to steal your thunder, but
Go ahead.
it was all very good. They were here for most of one day. Typically, it's 2 to 3 days. So, very thankful.
Yeah, and I'll second that. Well, I'm Jessica Lindley, and with your team here, they got us a lot of stuff beforehand, so we were able to do a lot from our office and then just come in, for a day and finish it up. So the audit went very smoothly. We're very appreciative of all their work, and yeah, it's a clean, boring audit. So.
We like that.
Yeah, we do too. I'll just kind of briefly go over the letter that's in your inside cover. We'll start with that, and then we'll go through the audit report. There were not a lot of changes this year compared to last year, so not a lot of things to highlight. However, we always like to start out saying these are more financial statements, and we just do certain procedures to give an opinion on them. So starting with the letter, this normally just states general information about the procedures we did, and if there were any findings or significant matters, they'd be included in here. Kind of halfway down the first page, We are also responsible for communicating significant matters. However, we did not identify any of those, so there's nothing to really report in this letter. On the second page, I do want to highlight under the bolded identified or suspected fraud. We did not have any identified or even suspected fraud that we found through our audit procedures. So that's always a good thing to note. And we also had no material misstatements. There were no audit adjustments needed. So this information that's in your audit report is exactly what your management gave to us. And we did not have to adjust for anything. So like I said, pretty boring, but that's how that goes. It's great. So on to the audit report. I'll briefly go over on page 1 is the independent auditor's report, and this is our report for any of the financial statement users. In the second paragraph, it states management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statement in accordance with the Kansas Municipal Audit and Accounting Guide. So that's the KMAG model, and so as you know, you always you approve a gap waiver every year as the board, and so this financial statement is on the KMAG model versus like a gap model. And the third paragraph down, our responsibility as auditors is just to express an opinion on this financial statement. The top of the next page, adverse opinion on US GAAP, that's just basically saying that these aren't presented on US GAAP. The second paragraph, in our opinion, the financial statement referred to above presents fairly in all material respects the aggregate cash and unencumbered cash balance of the district in accordance with KMAG. So it's a clean opinion, the highest opinion that you can obtain during an audit. Page 3 is your actual financial statement. It lists all of your funds on the left-hand side, and then starts with your beginning cash, your cash receipts, expenditures, and then your ending cash by fund. There were no outstanding AP or encumbrances at year end, so your unencumbered cash is your cash balance. And then at the bottom, there's a little reconciliation with your bank balances. It's your agency funds that gets you to those book balances by fund. There weren't a lot of changes from last year. I guess the total cash went up a little bit, and that was mostly in the capital outlay fund. But other than that, it was pretty consistent. Nothing significant there. So, are there any questions over the financial statement?
I'm assuming the federal fund.
Yes.
Negative balances because we hadn't drawn down funds yet or received.
Correct. There's actually a new note in here that kind of discusses that. I'm just going to go through, but basically, it's not a violation. It's not a cash violation or a budget violation in the federal funds. There's a Kansas state statute that gives you that permission because with grants, it's a timing issue, and so the district had spent those funds but just haven't received them back. Yeah. After your financial statement is the notes to the financial statement. Again, most of these are pretty standard and not a lot changed from the prior year. See if there's any. One thing I always like to highlight on page 8 is your long-term debt schedule. So that goes through your debt, and really in less than a year, your Series 2017 bond will be paid off. And then other than that, you just have the Apple leases, which will also be done in about a year. And then other than that, on page 11, note 11 is that new note. This is the only new note we have this year, and that is for those federal funds. And it gives us the statute number there that that this doesn't make it a violation of any kind. Any questions? Moving on to page 13 is your schedule one. And this is showing all of your budgeted amounts by fund and then the expenditures. And as you can see, there were no funds over budget except the federal funds, which of course is no violation. I think the district also receives, like some care funding and things like that weren't budgeted, as we didn't know this is all gonna happen. So some of those things kind of contribute to that, so. And then following that, it goes to your schedule 2, and these are gonna be all of your funds in detail by budget line. So you can kind of see where those receipts and expenditures were coming from on your main financial statement. So unless there's a certain fund you want to go through, I won't go through all of them, but if you have any questions over any of those, I'd be happy to do that. And other than that, you do have your schedule 3 and 4s in the back, and those are just your agency funds and activity funds for the district by school site. That's all I got, unless there's questions.
Any questions for her?
Or anything you want to add, Brad, or?
No, just appreciate, again, everybody's timeliness of getting stuff so that to get through and do things. And it is nice to have a clean audit and not having adjustments and things moving forward. And so, and how everything matches up, which should help us as we move forward with everything for sure.
Well, I just want to thank you guys for your time, and we're always available if you ever have questions over anything.
And I'll turn off the mic on this one, but the only bad thing is some Oliver was involved in it. That's, Taylor, Harold's daughter, was also involved, so.
I was gonna make her do the presentation, but she's in
Exactly.
Florida.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, she's in Destin or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Florida, right?
Yep. So,
Well,
well, thank you.
thanks a lot, Jessica. Well, good luck with everything.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
We're gonna go to call in.
If
I see
you,
He's on, so
I'm sorry,
I see he's on, so
Yeah.
I just didn't.
that winter sports,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Sounds good. Okay, then moving on, discussion item, the bond election. Thoughts, suggestions? What's next?
No. So I had talked with Brad a little bit, and I thought, would it be appropriate to try and do some sort of a work session instead of trying to hash out next steps at a board meeting where we're trying to do other day-to-day and monthly business? And that way we could dedicate some actual dedicated time to discussing the outcome and then also trying to figure out next steps and then if we want to pursue another one or what we want to do. I just feel like it would be nice to have some dedicated time to that instead of try to rush through it at a board meeting. I think that's a good idea, Callie. I mean, I do need to, we can't continue like we are, so we're gonna have to do something, whether that's trying to issue a different bond, gathering input for that, or closing other buildings, that we already have, moving students to other buildings in the interim even, if that's a possibility, just to help us to reduce our costs. I know we've already looked at the middle school, but there might be others that we need to do if there's room here to do.
Tony, Jim, you guys have any feedback that you'd like to provide here?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. I guess, I guess being so, well, relatively new, to the discussion, and Callie and I coming on kind of midway through the process, I would find it beneficial, to circle back, and I know a lot of this was probably discussed, but at least myself, and I can't speak for Callie, but to be blatantly honest, I was not at those board meetings, and I was not heavily involved in those discussions when this first started. So for the benefit of new individuals, as well as just the ability to re-solidify our main goals and main objectives through this bond, because I guess there's a lot of concerns, obviously, that we have for the district, and I think it would be beneficial to revisit things that all the board members want to see in terms of action that we all can agree on and get on the same page. So I guess I would find it beneficial to take the time to first discuss specifically what are things that as a board really have to be addressed, what are things that we would prefer to happen, and what are things that are just maybe once and we're not too upset with if it doesn't happen. I don't know what the others' thoughts are on that, but it would be beneficial, I think, for myself at least, to be able to understand fully from the board as a whole how people are, how we're going to move forward. Because I think, at least coming on, that was a little bit difficult for me to ascertain what specifically the goals were. I think we had numerous goals, but actually putting first things first and saying, really, these are the things that we really need to address, and keeping those on the forefront for all the decisions that are made as going forward, I think would be beneficial. Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, got to reassess and see where we go. I mean, I think that's kind of what Callie was referring to, is going back to square one and discussing, I mean, more so prioritizing our needs and making some decisions and moving forward that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
And I would just add as well that if, depending on where we land as far as how we want to proceed forward, whether it's doing another bond proposal or something like that, that's in that line, I'm going to need time to gather additional input from people. I've heard lots of different things from lots of different ideas from people in the Maple Hill area, about different options. So, and code makes this difficult because I would like to have some sessions where people could come and talk about and have different ideas to actually that are a solution towards our facilities, and give people the opportunity to do that. So I don't want to come out of a work session and we've got a plan down. I think coming out of a work session and wanting to go in a direction, I guess.
I mean, I second that. I would like a little bit of time, to be able to gather some of the feedback, I mean, I've heard some, like Kelly is, also, I've heard some feedback as well. And it would be nice to maybe bring that back to a work session, that way we kind of have ideas of what people did or did not support and why. And then that might help us also to maybe make the right decisions to move forward. What do we have to do next?
I believe the audit was put on hold then to see the outcome of the bond, is that correct? The maintenance audit?
It's, I mean, as much as we've got of things, I got you, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the wrong thing. The IGA, the investment grade audit, correct. You're correct. Energy audit, yes, that
And
is correct.
so now we know the outcome of the bond, would they be able to give us
Mhm.
some feedback of what their thoughts are as far as?
And they were supposed to come in December, but after this meeting, I was to contact them and the possibility of them coming in January.
I see. I think that has a little bit to do with us helping make decisions too, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I guess our number one priority really ought to be making sure that we are sustainable next budget year, which I think we've made steps to make sure that's happening throughout this year anyways, but that's probably part of it, I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
So, be nice to hear back from them.
Brad?
Yes.
I'm not sure who's all in the room. Who all is in attendance?
Kelly is
I mean, in
here.
terms of the board, just the board.
Kelly, Callie, Jerome, and Justin. Don and Tony are on Zoom.
Okay. Okay, so we have all members of the board present.
Correct.
Okay. And we don't, I guess in my mind, I have a few questions. We don't have to go over them in detail or discuss them in depth right now, but for purposes of trying to get all of us on the same page in terms of what we believe needs to be done with what actions we need to be taking. I've just got a few questions just for people to consider, and if you'd like to provide input after I go through them, I'd be more than happy to discuss more in depth. But so in terms of our overall goal at addressing the problems that we have and the challenges that we have, if everyone could just consider these questions and maybe additional questions or additional thoughts that you have as to what you see as what has to be done. I think some of these maybe we can all agree that has to be done, and some of them maybe we don't agree, or maybe we say that that's not our objective. So when considering the future of our district and taking into consideration the costs associated with maintenance, the condition of our facilities, the size of our classes, what in everyone's mind, and you don't have to answer, but what in everyone's mind is kind of the most important? What is the objectives that we really want to fulfill? Is it decreasing time on buses? Is it decreasing our facilities costs? Is it equalizing class sizes? Is it totally eliminating all of the modulars? Is it trying to move away from the existing buildings that we have that are outdated and expensive to maintain? Is it improving the safety of our children? Is it decreasing transportation costs? What of those things or other things that people are considering, can we agree on some of those aspects and work to move forward based on those considerations? I guess I'll leave it at this. For me, for us to succeed as a district, we can't continue operating in the number of locations that we have. And I think as a board, I hope at least, I don't know if everyone feels this way, but I hope we've kind of reached a conclusion that, yes, we do need to decrease square footage. We don't have the ability to maintain, with all the costs that are involved, 5 different locations. From most members of the board, what I've already heard is, I want to get rid of the modulars. We need to get rid of the modulars. They're outdated. They were old when we got them. Now they're even older. They're deteriorating. We're not even using 2 of them right now. Moving out of a modular learning is, I don't know if that's a unequivocal unanimous vote. I'd be interested in people's thoughts if it's not a unanimous vote or a unanimous thought process. I just want to know specifically within individuals' thought process, what is it that you see really needs to be done for our district to succeed? And we don't have to discuss further this meeting. I know it's a lot of things to consider, and there may be more questions that people feel like we need to be addressing.
Well, I think information like that comes from our leadership within. One, what tools do they need to maintain a successful environment for our kids? I don't know that I can sit here and tell them this is what you need in order to make a successful environment. I'm here to say, what is that environment? Okay, now I'm going to go help you get it. So I believe that that's going to be part of it, is getting that information from our leadership. So, I mean, I don't have any specific answers to your questions either. I think that you bring up some valid points, but as a board, technically, in my personal opinion, if you don't come to every meeting with those specific questions in mind, whether we're doing a bond or not, what does it take for our school district to be more successful next month than they were last month? I think maybe you have the wrong agenda. So those questions ought to be asked every time you walk through the door. And some of them will change month to month, meeting to meeting, year to year, based upon the current needs that are expressed to us from the people that lead our school district. So I guess if we are going to prioritize things, I would ask that you help us prioritize things. What, to me, the biggest priority is making sure that we maintain a safe and secure environment for our kids and our teachers. We maintain competitiveness in the area on payroll. I mean, that's a big factor of keeping good teachers and in effect having a good district. So whether that's in 5 buildings across 3 towns or if it's in 1 building in 1 town, how do we maintain that with the circumstances that we're given? So.
As a board, I think it's our responsibility to look for long-term solutions to challenges that we know we are going to be facing for a long period of time. And a bond issue should be a long-term solution for a district. It should be something that can be done that will help keep the district viable and successful for years to come. And I guess I want to be able to narrow down core objectives, if at all possible, primarily because I want to make sure us as a board are all on the same page when it comes down to making and narrowing decisions. And if board members feel that it is not a big deal if kids are on buses for an hour or an hour and a half, and some board members do, or maybe some feel an hour is fine, some feel an hour and a half is fine, that may not be a core objective that we make in consideration of a long-term solution. Whereas if we all agree that we need to decrease square footage in order for our district to be viable in the long term as a long-term solution, we need to make that an objective. If there's board members that don't agree, we need to discuss it. Because if we can't all agree, we're not going to be able to make decisions effectively. We need to have some common ground.
Any other thoughts, suggestions?
So I guess I would just consider everyone to think about and to discuss with community members, discuss with the administration. What are core objectives for a long-term solution? What are things that need to happen in order for our district to be viable and successful for years to come? And at the next board meeting, we can revisit, and that's what's going to drive our decisions. I think discussing why a bond failed and trying to find another solution by scrapping things together or discussing with a few members and trying to determine what may be the best thing to pass as quickly as possible. I think it's not a good resolution or a good determination of how something is going to succeed.
I think that this topic will land on the agenda for months to come, and we'll take small bites out of it along the way.
Yeah, the only thing I would point out is that, again, you've got to get something, whatever the choice is, if you're doing something again with a bond, and with this bond situation to solve problems, you still have the same problems. So how are you going to solve them? And number two is, it needs to be, in a sense, moving forward, because we have to get that done prior to those elections, in the sense of having that other bond come off on the budget piece. And so it takes time. You got to get it approved by the state board. You've got to go through a process. So the idea that we can wait too long and not move forward, I just want to make sure that everybody's aware that it isn't just we decide this night and then you go and you vote on it. I mean, you've got a months to get things lined out from the state board, et cetera, et cetera. So I just want to make sure that we, and so if that means having separate work sessions, that we dedicate to that and hammer it out one way or the other, whatever it is, and then we get going. Because otherwise, I don't want us behind the 8 ball. Literally.
So give me a
Just my personal
where do you want to
opinion.
go?
I would say, I think, like I said, any bond, you have to be looking at that bond as a long-term solution. So, and sometimes that does take time. I don't want to see mills fall off and then have to add on mills again, especially if, say, the county adds mills, and then where, taxpayers are left with a huge burden, just an influx. I don't want to see that happen, but at the same time, I don't want to see us rush through a process to see another failure when we could have really taken the time, taken the consideration, determined and followed a process where the result would be different, where it could be a successful bond. And that takes, in my opinion, that takes time. Because unless board members are willing to, unless we can agree that we will do special board meetings and dedicate significant time to this between now and January or February of next year, where we can align goals and we can get community input before that time. But this was my thoughts. It's a time-consuming process in itself.
I think that's why I would really like to just do a work session, though, is to have these conversations and dig deep into those types of topics. Not to just have a work session and decide this is what we're doing. But to sit down and say, what are our options? And what do we want to do next? Because I think that these are all, this conversation is a hard conversation to have when we have other things on our agenda items. We have to go home, we have to do things. So again, I think we just need to start having some dedicated time to that, but that's.
Tony, Don, you have anything to add? For that matter, I mean, I don't want to exclude anybody.
No, sounds like you covered it.
I would like to point out that a lot of us have spent a lot of time on this already. But to suggest that the board needs to spend a lot of time on this is a little insulting.
You have a suggestion of which way you'd like to go then, or what? I mean,
This is probably a discussion for our separate board meeting.
okay.
That's a good idea. We just need to schedule a thing and stop
Talk.
talking about it.
I agree.
I have
So
my
that-
calendar open, look at
If that's a
it.
consensus of the board, that's all I'm asking for.
Here it is, go.
What do you want to do?
Let's see, the December board meeting's on the 14th. So,
Before or after, what are we looking at?
I would hope before.
Yeah, I would look before, but.
But I don't know what legwork board members want to do prior to a work session, so. If any.
I don't know what you mean by that.
I don't know, do you want to?
I mean, I've had people,
No,
I've said I've talked to more people in the last 2 months than
No,
I have in the last 2
absolutely.
years.
Absolutely, I've talked to a lot
I
of
know what the 57% that voted no think.
Well, I think there's a variety of reasons why the 50%, 57%
I agree.
voted no.
I could give
There's
you
lots of
6
different reasons.
reasons.
Yeah.
Me.
And I think that this bond option did lots of things, lots of different things all at one time, which then made people vote no. So there was the cost, there was the closing of buildings, there was the tearing down of the high school, there was the tearing down of Texaco, there was lots of different things. 2 locations, there was lots of different reasons, I think, why there's the 57%. I've talked to lots of people about the bond proposal that we had. Now that that one did not pass, I think there's reason to get input, I guess, from my constituents on what would they support.
You think Maple
That's
Hill
exactly-
support anything?
Well, we had 100 and however many people support it. I want to make sure that at least if whatever proposal I put forward, or I push to put forward, at least 126, if not more, vote yes for it. I guess that's what I'm saying, Jerome.
You.
You know, and I think that there are some proposals that more people would vote for. I think there are some proposals that less people would vote for. You know,
I agree.
and I think there is a group or a couple different groups that it won't matter what the proposal
Yeah,
is.
I would agree with that.
And I think that's not just in Maple Hill though. That is district-wide. No matter what the proposal is, it'll be of no vote. Even, I think there are,
You
not
may
just
feel
Maple Hill.
confident saying that, but I don't know that that's entirely true.
I think there is a group for different reasons that would vote no, unfortunately. So I think that we have to come up with a proposal that we feel that district-wide really we can get some really good backing behind. And so that's what I'm saying.
I would say this would be a lot easier if everybody could show up in person.
I think
Anybody
I couldn't
disagree with
agree
that?
more. I
Okay.
couldn't agree more. If we could get 100% participation out of our 7 board members, I believe we could come to a resolution and we could get this put behind us and put to bed. I'm very passionate about that.
But I mean in person.
I agree.
This deal here
Doesn't work.
doesn't work well.
well, sitting on a Zoom call before, when part of you are here and part of you, and I'm on Zoom, it doesn't work. If we're all on
I
Zoom,
know.
it works. If we're all in person, it works. It's really hard to do both. And I understand that there's reasons why people can't attend in person. And there's some information that I'd like to gather that I know we have, but just to like bring it back up again. So when we are talking about different options as a board, I tried to find a precinct map and I can't find, do you have one? Okay, I couldn't find one on the county's website.
I got
So
it.
that's something I would like to know, just that, so I have an idea. I know where those areas are at, but I don't know
I'd
exactly.
like to see too.
So I'd like to
Why don't
see
you
that.
project it up there?
I don't think I'm not hooked in. But I will send it. I will send it.
So that was
Mail
one
it to
thing
Brad, and Brad will send it
I
out.
will send it.
that I would like before a meeting. And then the other was
I
like
remember
our
that.
building floor plans. Do we have room that if we wanted to close another building, do we have room to move people around currently? That's something.
Brad is sending it.
Anyway, so I have some other things, but sorry.
It took us 15 minutes to get some conversation.
You're on.
I like it.
Okay, so when would you guys like to meet?
Last weekend?
Is it consensus that we want to do this, have a discussion meeting prior to the next board meeting? Let's narrow it down to the next 30 days. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
I say yes.
I say yes.
Okay.
Justin,
Okay?
Tony.
This, Tony?
Yeah, he said yes.
can you hear me, Brad?
Yes. Yes,
I
Tom.
would like to speak up for the fact that I would like to speak up for the fact that I would love to be there tonight, but it's probably not a good idea for personal reasons. And I do not appreciate that, Jerome.
I don't think any ill will was meant from anybody.
You don't have,
It was simply a suggestion that it is hard for us to come to a consensus conclusion when, like Kelly said, some of us are online and some of us aren't. If we were all online, it would still be easier to have those discussions than if we were partial back and forth. I don't think there was any ill will meant by any of that. So don't take it personal.
well, I would love to be there tonight.
You're online.
I would love to be there tonight, but I have personal issues and I can't be there.
Yeah.
And it's for everyone's safety.
Thank you.
As we move forward, that's going to have to be a discussion, which was also brought up earlier about the fact that it is a little tough to get speedy decisions made and in the environment that we have to operate in. I think that was the concern. So, dates.
What about,
Prior to the next board meeting, go a couple weeks out, maybe the week before the next board meeting.
the 30th? The week of the 30th? First week in December, second week in December. I don't want to get too close to, well, I don't know. Who knows what Christmas looks like.
Like the 2nd or the 9th? Is Wednesdays bad to do? I know it's religion night, but if maybe there's a different night that's better.
I think it just is gonna have to be priority.
We'll throw out a date and I'll look at it.
How about the second?
The 2nd of December, Tony, Jim, Dawn, the 2nd of December is being a date that's thrown out for a discussion, work session. And then obviously anybody in here, does that not work?
Three always.
I'm good with that.
So that was Jim and
What
Tony.
time?
I would say 6 o'clock.
I mean, has Dawn confirmed?
I was getting ready to ask, but
Dawn,
What day is that?
it's a Wednesday. Is that a bad date?
It's a what?
It's a Wednesday.
Yeah, it's a bad day, but I could probably make it work. Did you hear that?
Yes, are Mondays better?
Well, the first Monday, I've got a meeting on the first Monday of the month. On Monday evenings, I have a meeting.
What about Monday, November 30th?
November 30th would be the last Monday of the month.
I could do that.
I'm not hearing my notes here before I answer. Jim, Tony,
That works.
Everything is probably like normal.
Sorry, I was looking, that works.
so Monday, November 30th at 6 o'clock here at the boardroom. Work session or bond or district direction meeting. Okay. Thank you all for that discussion. Appreciate your input. Yes.
Can I just add one thing
Absolutely. I was
about-
going to ask.
I would like for us to be in person, but if for some reason a board member cannot attend in person, could we move it to all remote? Or not?
I'm more on the side of Jerome. I wish we could look at the whites of each other's eyes, but I know that is tough today.
I know,
So,
I'm just saying that if for some reason a family is quarantining or whatever it might be, or has, I just,
right.
but you don't have to make a decision
You make
right
a
now.
great point.
You can
Do
just-
one or the other, though, is what
Yeah,
you're saying.
yes, that's my point. It's really difficult when you're online trying to interact when not everybody is online.
The delay is so long.
Yes, it's really
So-
hard. So we don't have to decide that now. I just throwing that out there as a,
If that happens,
Something to have to-
if it happens that you can't be here in person, please communicate with Brad, so Brad can send out communication with the board early enough in order to make those decisions. Appropriate? Okay. If everyone's in agreement with that, then I'm gonna move on. Okay.
Jeff,
Yes?
do we need a vote on that?
What she said?
Do we need a vote on that?
Do we need a vote?
yeah, we should,
Okay,
since it's a special board meeting.
okay.
And we have a special board meeting on November 30th at 6 PM to work on the next direction.
Callie moved and Jerome seconded. All those in favor say aye.
I,
Motion carried. Okay, thank you, Cheryl.
You're welcome.
Okay, moving on to winter sports spectator limitations.
Yeah, the only other thing that I would like to, before you get off of this, is just the email that was shared that let you guys know about HTK and their services and the cost, and then that they would be willing to, on this next bond, if we go to a bond, that it would be pro bono for that work. And that 25,000, they work 65,000 hours or 1,000 in work, but they're charging us for 25, and that would be coming out of capital outlay. And we would either have the choice of all up front, or we can spread it out over 5 months or whatever. So anybody's feelings about that, or just move forward with the 5-month piece, or what? Any pluses or minuses, or any thoughts? Otherwise, we'll just work with them and get it taken care of.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was an accrued cost, so
Okay,
work with them and make it happen.
we'll do it.
Okay. Anything else around that we need to discuss prior to moving on? Okay. All right, then moving on.
Ray, thanks for waiting.
No problem. I know everybody has a lot of business to do right now.
Yeah, and again, this is Ray Finley. He's the Wabunsee County Health Department Administrator, and we were going to discuss some things. First thing is, we had talked about the spectator, and we'd gone through and administratively decided, and initially we were going at 50% capacity, and that's why the junior high games were moved up here to the high school, so we could facilitate that, and they have a lot of attendance. We couldn't social distance in that, so moved up the games to the high school. And then the second piece is, after we looked at things, made a determination, and thank you to Jason Miller's class, they went through and actually did that as an assignment to determine then if you were in groups of 2 and social distance, how many could we get in? If you were in groups of 3, if you were in groups of 4. And basically it came down to around 30% capacity. And then things happened. And then on Friday with Ray, we discussed having no spectators. First, we started with no activities at all. And then again, our philosophy is it's important with the activities to keep the kids involved and keeping things going forward. So the county, and I don't want to speak for you, Ray, if I'm out of turn, but the county found with the increase in the COVID numbers, much due to outside county sources. And so then to keep it in county with our kids and doing those things, keep the spectators out and allow our kids to do things. And the kids were not the ones that, at that point that were really getting anything as far as getting COVID and other issues. So that's what we've done, and we're moving forward with the spectator piece. Now we're moving on to the next, and I'm going to share my screen, Ray, so if you don't see us, but this is information on the gating criteria, and the first piece of it, this is what our numbers are right now. And that little sheet that's on your desk that was sent around then also has this sheet based upon school activities, on-site, remote, spectators, visitor access, and then down here, student absenteeism, community, 2-week positive, etc. So you can see what those levels are. Then again, the spreadsheet shows where we're at, and then it was put in where we are in regards to the gating colors. And with our reopening plan, and that we had talked about the fact that it would be based upon building to building versus the entire district. And as you can see, the ones in question at this point are the junior high and the high school. And those numbers are compared to the average daily attendance of 96 students or percent of our student population is there. So 14% is absent, and so we're 10% above or below that average attendance.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so help me understand the 14%, the 7% absent, but no positive cases for the staff or the students. So what is the 14 and the 7%?
That's the percent of absences of students just being absent for sickness. So it could
But
be
not
COVID, it could be, it couldn't.
I see.
Yeah, it can and can't be. It's just that gating criteria doesn't separate out either. It just says student absenteeism. So they could be.
It could be a mental health day,
It,
but we don't know that.
It could be, but the idea too is the absences are something usually with sickness. So in the numbers that we've seen or sent home, they may or may not be, or they may be quarantined. And we don't know that specifically unless they tell us or Ray has shared that with us.
Callie?
So is included in that 14% of absent, sorry, are students counted as absent if they're at home quarantining or whatever it is, and they're still remoting in? Are they counted as absent?
They are, unless they are designated as a remote learning
So
student.
they have to
Oh.
be designated as a remote learning
That's
student?
correct.
I see.
Because
And we hope they're remoting in
right,
if they're feeling well enough to do so, but they are counted absent. Otherwise,
that's different.
you would never be able to track any of that because everybody would be present all the time.
Right.
So you'd have no illness absentees on your official record books in Skyward.
And that's where it works. That's what, I mean, if you can remote in, you're not absent. So.
We
it's
would
interesting.
consider them more of a hybrid.
Okay.
Because they technically are in-person students, but at that point in time, they are needing to remote learn, and so, but they're coming back as soon as they're able to.
So would that be the kids that are maybe quarantining right now? Is the expectation if they're quarantining and they're not sick that they're remoting in, and so they would be a hybrid?
That they can remote in as long as they're feeling well enough to do that.
And the one thing with the hybrid situation that we don't want to do, at least we don't, and maybe speak to that too, but don't see we're gaining anything if we say A through F come here.
No.
Yeah.
This, do that. It doesn't work. I'm sorry, but, and I'm not in a position in other big school districts that have to do that. And that's the best that they have. For us, it's not gonna work. And so,
Kelly?
I would just say, I mean, knowing, or I'll just say, I mean, having a student that had to quarantine for 2 weeks at home, remote learning is definitely not ideal. It's not great. I mean, it works.
It's definitely not no matter how prepared you are, it is not a snap adjustment. So we don't really encourage kids to switch back and forth.
Right.
Because those that have to, it takes about the amount of time to adjust, and then they're back in school.
Right, and it's just, that is not anything against teachers
No,
or
it's
anything
just-
like that. It's just that, learning and doing well in classes does not go well when you're remote learning.
It's like
And
having this meeting with half of
Right,
you there and
exactly.
half of you here.
It's really hard when you're on the remote end of it.
Yes.
Anyway,
I guess I was curious though, if a parent had decided to keep their 3 or 4 kids out because of a spike in cases, do they have the opportunity to switch to a hybrid student and stay out of these numbers? Like I want my kids to stay home because I'm nervous about COVID. I don't want them to contract it, and there has been an increase in cases, so I'm just gonna keep them home, let them learn online. It has nothing to do with their health or that they're sick or not. Do we have the ability to take them out of these numbers, because that would quickly skew these numbers?
Yeah, and we really haven't had that specific scenario. I will tell you that those 20 kids, they're not inflating this number. Now, do all of them have COVID? No. But, and I don't know how much I can say. For example, Ray can't tell me who's tested positive, because that's confidential. So and you all probably know, like I know it goes around town faster, more people know about it than I do, honestly. Or suspect that they know. But just in this particular case, I don't think that there are a bunch of those. There may be a few. So, and no, we haven't considered taking them out of our count, because ultimately, if they're staying home for fear that they may contract COVID, I think that that's a representation of there being something going on at school in most cases. I mean, sometimes people work at the nursing home, so they are more cautious and they keep their kid out. But in other cases, depending on whether those cases are actual COVID cases or not, they have been in contact.
And that's the thing too, just like what Jan's saying, they're not gonna, then it becomes, and we don't want to get into this because I've seen this happen in other places too, again, that I won't get tested and I won't say anything. And so we don't want that happening either, so then it's gonna skew things because we're just gonna keep coming. And then everybody's gonna be affected, so we don't wanna get into that too. And so the remote piece is that, be honest, and in some senses an incentive, just like with the opportunity, and we've talked with Ray and the KDHE is looking at the possibility of not having to quarantine if both parties have the proper mask and wear them properly as an incentive. Then to wear the mask, then you won't have to quarantine, even if you're in close contact with a positive. And so trying to ensure that. Ray, the county increases were significant, correct?
That's correct. I mean, this last week has definitely been our worst week as general in the public. Last week on Monday, I was reporting 12 active cases. As of today, as I put my press release out, we were at 57 active cases. And so we've more than tripled our numbers in 1 week. And the state only has us at about 53, but that's going off of people being goodwill enough to call us and tell us that they tested positive and getting us the information so we can get started quicker on who or if anybody needs to be quarantined in some of these processes and stuff, which hopefully will help slow some of this down. But as I was telling Brad earlier today, I think the most concerning part, now we do have a hot spot in the county, which is the midsection, but it's pretty uniform of our new cases throughout the county, both north and south. And I think that's the concerning part to me. And it just seemed like it hit us all at once with this. And the one thing I'll amplify is we're not the only county that's getting hit like this. This has hit multiple counties and a few of them around us just as quick, just as hard with this. So why is it specifically exploding like this quick after 8 months? I think we're all scratching our head on that one right now. Brad?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to ask Ray. Ray, I'm going to consider you the resident expert. So you're the one that's going to get the question from me. So one question I have, and I don't know if you've been able to see the gating criteria that Brad had on the screen there a little bit, but the question that really weighs on my mind is, do you feel that the gating criteria is appropriate? And if so, do you feel like we should be using the grading criteria as a recommended tool to determine what decisions we should make in terms of what it's laid at?
Well, I think it's a tool that we need to use and watch as we make decisions. I think there was a lot of effort put in it by KDHE when they sat down and figured this out, and looking at and working with the Kansas educational the state board, because they did work in conjunction with them on that gating criteria. I think if we would have approached this at a slower rate, we would have a better handle on what and why some of this is happening. But correct me if I'm wrong, Brad or Jan, this pretty much exploded in about the same time frame as what the county did, as far as it goes.
That is correct.
Yeah, so the fact that we jumped in, and I know at the county level, we was running at about 3% a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And then we jumped up to about a 5%, and now look at us right now, even as a county, and we're at that 15%, between 10 and 15%. And like I say, the short amount of time that I think has kind of caught me off guard on this. And so how do you stop it from being 20 or 25%? And that's the thing that I really look at in some of the decisions that get made, both countywide and school-wise. As I have told both school districts, my whole goal is to keep schools open. My whole goal is to keep things as normal as we can during this year. And we're not going to get normal, but these activities, and we all were in school at one time, these activities are extremely important to these kids as not only their education, but the way that they develop with the activities that they participate in. And that's why I suggested last Friday, possibly just going to the no spectators setup, so that they at least get the enjoyment of playing the games and participating. Because most of these kids have got a lot of time and effort in. These kids don't just play basketball or volleyball during basketball and volleyball seasons. They prepare pretty hard anymore for these activities, as well as cheering and some of the other activities that go on. I'm not just locked in on sports, but and stuff. So I don't know if that was more of an answer than you wanted, and did I answer your question?
So you did. I have a follow-up. My follow-up question is how, I don't have that screen in front of me right now, but the one you had up earlier, Brad, how close are we to that 15%?
I think high school wise, we're knocking right on the door, and we're not a little bit over that 15%.
Okay. I guess my follow-up question would be whether you feel we should, and I know this is a loaded question, but whether you feel as a school district that having a drastic increase like that, whether you feel that it's appropriate this time to make a decision of, because we're looking at building by building. So high school, if there needs to be a decision made for those students to move remote, or if not moving remote, what are potential other ideas we could look at to potentially try to limit the spread that appears to be occurring?
High school wise, I believe you should be looking at remote for 14 to 21 days. And the simple fact is and again, I can go back to Brad and Jan. It's just like today was a busy day because again, they had another jump with new cases of both quarantine and isolation. And you all are familiar with the two terms that I'm using there. Isolation is when you're confirmed positive. Quarantine is when you had close contact with a confirmed positive. And I think and a couple things have jumped in there on both the county and then especially 329. I don't think as exciting as it was to go to the volleyball championships, that has played an impact on the district in itself. So now it's how do you stop it from growing and getting completely out of control for us at this point.
And one
I
thing,
really appreciate your open and candid feedback. And that's all the questions that I have for right now.
and one thing I would make sure and point out to, we really appreciate the great relationship the school district has with the county and with Ray in particular and everything. And so when we get information, just FYI for you all, like Jan say, you may hear it from 10 different people long before we ever do, but we won't act until we hear from Ray. It's not our responsibility to act as health department. We're here to educate. And then we obviously believe in the students and parents and stuff like that and trust and those things. And we're not going to get into playing the games or anything else. But Ray is also in a position because of the way of the testing that somebody may say, well, I think I've got it. And then he doesn't get the results for 96 hours or whatever it may be. So is that correct, Ray, and some of that in timing that it's not always you're getting it, and then you don't maybe see it on the system, Epitrack, I believe is it called, and then the other thing is they may not be in our county, correct?
Correct. Some of the contributing factors may come from out of county, and which makes it, I mean, it does not get reported directly to me or our health department. So you've got to come up with that information another way, and then I've got to work with the other county. And I'm not saying you've got to work in a bad way. I'm just saying that now you're widening that band of who we work with on some of that stuff. So I think most of the counties around us are pretty good about passing information back and forth on what they can pass back and forth. And that's the one thing that I'm going to throw out there. One of the things that did hurt us this year on COVID is, I don't know how much you guys have heard about it, but the bill that got passed by legislation, and it was more against Governor Kelly, or limiting, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to phrase it that way, more in limiting Governor Kelly, but they limited the health departments in the fact that of what information I can put out there. I mean, and so whereas and before, and I can still do that on the other reportable diseases. I can call you up and tell you that John Doe, he was with John Doe last week and he had chickenpox. But now for COVID, I got to call you up and say you were around a positive COVID patient, and you'll say who? And I say I can't give that information to you. And then the other thing is I can tell Brad and Jan about, positive cases, so that they can make sure that they don't come into the school building. What I can't give them is quarantine names unless I get permission from either in the kids' cases, it's gonna be permission from their parents to share that information. That's just like jumping in and trying to swim with one arm tied behind your back on some of these. Now, I will also point out that the highest percentage of the parents have been more than willing to work with us in making sure this doesn't, that we don't get totally killed on some of this stuff. They've been very quick to work with us on that kind of stuff.
Thank you, Ray. Appreciate all that you've done for us, and I guess I'd like to reiterate to our leadership. I mean, we put a plan in place. You brought us a nice plan. We approved it. You guys are in charge. You're doing a fantastic job maneuvering through this, and I'm sure it is not what you want to deal with during your day, but appreciate it. And the relationship you guys have created with Ray makes me very comfortable in agreeing with whatever direction you take our district as far as hybrid, online, or in person. I may not like some of those decisions, but I will sure support them because I trust that it's in the best interest of our kids. So, any other feedback from you guys?
I'd agree. Yeah, I'd agree.
Okay, so with that thought process, the reopening plan was approved by the board. So I feel like that then this should be a board decision in regards to what we do from this point with the information that we have.
Okay.
Do we need to have, does there have to be an actual action item or a motion?
Well, I think that it would then be able to show that this is a decision that based upon the recommendations from administration and the county health department, that the board is following the reopening plan in regards to the gating criteria, and this is what we're going to do. I mean, I don't have a problem myself
With,
making that decision based upon the information, but I think that it's important to follow with the board's directives as well.
Part of my question earlier around the number of students, this 20 and the 14% is that the 20 is actually not as high as many people that we've had out being quarantined in previous instances, right?
Correct.
So still with one positive case before, we had more people quarantined than what we do this time. My question is where's the concern?
This question is for Ray. Is the contact tracing even complete? I mean, I know you guys are swamped, and I guess my question is, I felt with that example, I felt like we had one identified case, and we pretty quickly contact traced and quarantined people. In this case, I feel like that there's more going on in the county. There is more, it's different also in the school from what I can tell. And so I feel like the contact tracing is still happening. Does that make sense? Like, I think possibly the quarantines are yet to come. It's just we haven't gotten direction to do any of that. And
Okay.
And like he said, I don't have the authority to start quarantining people on the only positive cases I know about are the ones parents inform me of. I don't know about any. I've heard of others, but I can't use that. I can't go by that.
So then my question then is, if you have a decision or you have a recommendation from the leadership to the board, I mean, before we make a motion, what are we making a motion on? What are you guys recommending that we follow?
Yeah, and with that, I would say that we follow the recommendation from the county health department and have the high school and remote learning, at least through Thanksgiving. Because the other thing, and you're right, in looking at the information, this building criteria of the gating, the absenteeism was higher, but there were other things that weren't as high. The county's positive percent wasn't going up at 15. It was still down below 5. So all those things, it wasn't trending going up. It was actually decreasing. So we were in green for most of the things versus being in red in others. So.
And in the last case, there were examples of having to quarantine an entire class. Okay, well, once I learned what we had done wrong there or not done well enough, that next day, that was over. Like I never wanted that to happen again. And so we put things in place that very next day to make sure that that was one thing that it wouldn't at least happen for that reason again. So I think some of the reason why we haven't had the mass quarantine is because possibly the contact tracing is still underway, the investigations are still underway. And the other thing is, we're hoping that we're doing a better job of protecting kids so that, for example, they're wearing masks and they aren't just an automatic direct contact.
So should the decision be made 3 days from now?
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Mhm. So he brings up a good point, and so there's 2 points there. So I thought I got a text message today from the school that there's actually a positive confirmed case at the Alma Elementary School and the Maple Hill Elementary
And
School.
it was my mistake. The person is just Alma Elementary.
Okay, so Alma Elementary, Wabunsee Junior High, and Wabunsee High School all have a confirmed case. I mean, in the buildings, because right here, you're telling us Wabunsee High School has one, and then I was thinking that you said the junior high also had one.
That's what I asked about.
But the junior high is now negative.
Okay, all right. Well, that's what I mean, my question was, are you cutting deep enough if we're seeing a rise going? If we are going to shut our schools down for any amount of time, maybe now's the time to do it, to stop it and get past Thanksgiving when fall sports or winter sports start.
I'm no expert, but I guess I want kids to be in school mostly, and I wish all this would go away. But beyond that, then I think, well, how can we quell it? Like, how could we just try to nip it? And maybe it wouldn't work. I don't know. I mean, but I just think we have a little bit of time here before winter sports practice starts, and so, not that that's everything, but it's important to me, and I just think if we do go through with this and we're able to nip it, if kids actually will stay home when they're off.
Kelly, you had something I don't miss.
I just have one question about, this is only Waubonsee School District staff. It would not include special ed staff that are employed by the co-op? Would that be correct? Because I was told there was 2 special ed teachers. Well, anyway.
Yeah, I can't,
I know.
unless we go to executive session, I don't want to discuss that with personnel.
Okay, I'm sorry, I should
No,
know.
Well, okay, what is the definition of staff
What is the dictionary?
on this
There you
spreadsheet?
Yeah, thank you.
That's, anybody that's associated with the school, whether it's 329, 320,
So anybody that's associated with the school.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're quite welcome.
I,
And then just like those type of things, as Ray gets it and gets it to us as quickly and going through, then all of a sudden it's like that and 10 days is over or whatever it is, or a person has gone in, tested positive, now they're negative and they're back. And so, yeah.
thank you.
Which
Yeah,
leads
quite
into your
welcome.
3 days piece,
I don't know.
right?
It seems like what you're suggesting, maybe you don't even mean to do that. We don't have all the information yet. I don't know. I don't think sending the high school to learn remote till Thanksgiving is gonna do much good. They won't stay home.
No.
And then they get together Thanksgiving. I'm not sure we're doing any good there, but I'll go along with whatever
Yeah.
you suggest, honestly.
And I don't want to put it all on the health department, but I defer to them. I just want to try to, all I know is out of those 20 people, I've probably called 15 today. And that gave me a much better idea of exactly why they're staying home. So.
And what was your take from that?
Just that their contact or perceived contact isn't just, we're really concerned, we heard that you guys have COVID and we're just gonna stay home until it's all over. I didn't get that message from any.
Gotcha. But again, oh, go ahead, sorry.
Well, I mean, I think, and I don't know, I think I just heard it differently than Jerome, was that if you know, we don't know, there's a lot more community spread, so if we just remain open, then we're also potentially just allowing more exposure to happen throughout the high school, which, I mean,
If there's a lot more community spread, sending kids home,
I
seems
know,
like
I'm
it
not
would be worse.
gonna debate that, because I get it, but.
I am a little concerned about our staff too, just to throw
Yeah,
that out there,
But
especially certain ones.
what it also comes back to me is we approved a specific plan. And so we also need to, I think, follow whatever that specific plan was.
Can't change in
You
midstream.
can't change it, we can't
So-
say, oh, well, maybe, because we really don't know what that 20 is exactly, so we're gonna change it. I mean, the plan was based upon the county health department's recommendations and the gating criteria. If we're looking at the gating criteria and the recommendations, high school's in the red, and if we're following the plan, then that's what the plan was, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I don't like it, I don't necessarily like it.
I want to make that clear.
Yeah.
When would that become effective then, tomorrow?
Not necessarily what I want, but.
I mean, if we voted on to approve the plan and move forward with the plan, when would the high school go remote?
We would start tomorrow.
You ready?
Or
What about Thursday?
what?
So scary from last
Or what did you say? I'm sorry.
I mean,
They all have their thing.
I think if it is important enough for us to vote on and make a motion tonight to do it, the contact tracing is most likely only gonna get worse. If we're already in the red, tomorrow's the day.
do we know, like, I mean, I guess I would hear from Ray, like, where we're at on the contact tracing as far as it done, and or
Ray, did you hear that?
Well, yeah, pretty much with the county exploding the way it did on us, I will not say that we are up on our contact tracing at this particular point. Because, we jumped so quick and so significantly throughout the county, and I know my investigator is working her tail off. She came in both Saturday and Sunday to try to keep up with this last week. But are we 100% caught up on it? No. It's the exact reason. I'll tell you, the state has reached out and tried to help some of the health departments, but some of the things that I've heard about their contact tracing, and I think it's just simply because what they did is brought in a whole new batch of people, and then the state's exploding this, because the state's getting 600 new cases a day, plus the contact tracing. And I've kept it right here in the county to make sure that we can stay up as much as possible at this point. So.
Jerome?
WHS has one positive student case on the spreadsheet. Are there likely we're gonna find out this week that there are 5 to 10 more positive
I defer that question.
WHS students.
I don't know what I can say, so I defer that to
I need
him
to
to tell me
consider.
how many positive cases are verified with the county.
That doesn't change your decision probably, but.
Probably not. Yeah, I'll shut up. You're right.
No,
No,
I know you're thinking that.
No, but
What
it
are we
does,
talking, why are we
though.
wasting
I mean,
time?
it does, because if you look on the surface of it, if you don't know that, okay, well, there's probably other people that have it that aren't on here, if that is really likely that that is true, that other students have it, that maybe aren't getting tested because that's happening, or they are tested and it's not on here yet, whichever one it is, but for us to say we're gonna shut it down because we have one positive case, that is not going to
And I totally
set,
understand.
that is not going to set
But
well.
it's like
Thank
I know more.
I know.
than-
Right, I know.
And so,
I'm just saying that is not going to set well with parents,
Yeah, I
community,
understand.
everything.
And
That's
so-
what
so
I'm
for
trying
that-
to
For
say.
that reason, whatever you decide, I'm willing to move forward with, but I just, all I keep going back to is I heard Ray, which we haven't talked about this in advance. I mean, that's the first, I didn't mean to put him on the spot. This has literally blown up. Like, we went from that one confirmed case that's on your document, and Friday and Monday morning, it has just.
Yeah.
And whether I can sit here and tell you what I think I know, but I don't have that on a no swab and a positive, like I don't have that information. I don't ever get that unless that's shared with me by the county.
Would it be easier for
parents.
Well, the parents,
That's
that's
what I'm
true.
asking you.
I don't think that we have gone to the point of where a parent says they tested positive and they really didn't. But there's
You
always
know
that
that
chance.
information because you've talked to 15 of the 20 quarantine,
Right.
but you won't share that information? You
Well, can
can,
I-
because it was just said you can share that, the parents shared that.
Can I share that information?
You're not sharing names, you're sharing numbers of students.
So there are other positive cases
Okay,
in students
So
and
what-
others that have symptoms and have not been tested to my knowledge.
so would it be easier for us to cancel high school
Right.
tomorrow and go live with your online learning on Wednesday? Because if there's other positive cases, we don't need the kids in the buildings. And at 7:30 at night, is it the right time to call and make sure everybody's prepared for online learning tomorrow morning?
I did have information, and again, this isn't from their administration or anything, but that Mission Valley is likely going distance learning beginning tomorrow, that the school board's meeting tonight. No school for kids tomorrow, so all of us can plan distance learn. This is completely anecdotal.
But
let's
they're
say
going,
that.
Mission Valley is going K-12, because they're in one building.
Right, well, this says 7-12.
Yeah, I bet they're.
See what the benefit is? having to
Right.
go out district?
Yeah, I knew that was gonna be.
Okay.
Yeah, Ray, did you have something? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just heard Ray say we should do it, and so then that makes
I had a
me
question, Brett.
hurt my ears.
Yes, sir.
Just, I guess, with discussion with Ray, discussing his concerns with the county increase, drastic increase, his recommendations with, in alignment with what we've already established for our, plan. I don't see how moving away from our plan or going against the advice of the county health director is a good move in any sense of the conditions that we're in. So I would like to move to remote learning starting tomorrow until November 30th for the Valencia High School students and teachers.
Hey, Jim,
We need a day.
would you mind an amendment to your motion and adding in that we cancel school for those individuals affected tomorrow and allow them to have a 24-hour time frame to prepare for the online learning. Again, we were discussing earlier about how making that decision tonight at 7:30 and expecting teachers and everybody to be ready at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning for their online process is probably a little much to ask. Would you mind making that amendment?
Maybe just using that as a basic snow day.
Yeah.
Well, we don't even have to use it as that.
Is that what that would come out of?
No, because it's only the high school.
I am okay with making that amendment.
Just for clarification though, our district isn't canceling school for tomorrow, it is just the high school. So there is no loss of hours?
Yeah, it'd be lost of hours for the high school.
Right.
Because what we have to do is we report the number of hours for each building, and then we get credit for the least, which is typically junior high or middle school, I can't remember which one. But anyway, so.
We have the time allocated anyway.
We have 8.3 days over, so.
And if
In the time,
teachers,
okay. I'm
teachers
good
were
with
planning,
making
it
that,
might
with
only
that as
cost half,
with
right?
that amendment.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for
Yeah,
PD,
teachers.
we,
So that's fine.
we possibly could count it as a PD day, which is half, is what Jan's saying.
Right, because they'll be preparing to go
Right.
online.
And they,
So
my vision is. that they'll be
clarify
at
on that.
school. That they would be, that staff would be
That's a
at
work
school.
day.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what my vision and what they're
Yes.
what I've tried to convey, so.
Okay.
Teacher work.
And just for clarification too, if this would pass, is that the teachers will still come to school. And they will still remote from school.
Okay.
They won't be home, because for lots of reasons. Internet accessibility is number one, because they all may not have it. And two, all their stuff's here. In other words, if I'm a lab teacher, then I can actually show the lab and be able to do that and all those things. And just honestly, for public perception, they need to be here. They're on a contract, they need to be working those days. So
Well, and that's what other districts that are doing this are doing also, is that correct? That their teachers are,
some are and some I don't know, but yes.
I think the majority.
Okay, so to clarify, the motion. Cheryl, are you ready? Jim made the motion.
I am ready.
Jim made the motion of, Kelly?
No, go ahead.
Jim made the motion of canceling high school student face-to-face learning tomorrow, which is November the 10th, and going to online learning on November 11th for a period of 2 weeks until after Thanksgiving. So Monday the 30th would be their first day back. Brad? Jan? Okay.
And I would say, Ray,
Ray?
How does that sound, Ray?
That sounds great.
Okay.
Well, not great, but
yeah,
It's,
I think
yeah.
that's a solid.
Okay.
What's that?
Okay. So Cheryl, did you get that motion?
I have that Jim, made the motion to cancel school for the high school, grades 9 through 12, on Tuesday, November the 10th, and starting November 11th, they will go to online learning through November, would be the 27th, start back on November 30th. And then Mr. Starnes clarified that teachers would have to be in the building.
Yes.
I have a question.
Kelly,
But do we need to have a second first before I ask my
what was your
question?
question about the motion?
Not about the motion, it's about this process. Yeah.
Okay, give me a second and then we'll have discussion.
That's fine. A second.
Okay, Callie seconded. And Kelly, you have some discussion.
I have a question.
Okay, go.
So my biggest concern is if students, most likely, may not have everything they need to remote learn. I'm hoping, will they have access to the building tomorrow in which to gather things that they may need? as long as they're not showing symptoms of COVID, I would hope we would allow them into the building to gather whatever it is,
Masks and.
iPads and,
I'm sure they don't need masks if they.
I did
I've got the same
send a preemptive email out to staff, not having any idea, but I was just seeing what the possibilities. And I emailed all staff today and said that at any given time, just remember, we all need, students and staff need to be prepared to go remote. And so, I mean, that was probably midday, so I would think most kids would have everything they need, but if they didn't,
They need to call and schedule an appointment? or-
yeah, that's fine. They just need to call the office.
That needs to be the communication out to the parents, because that's a great point.
and that's gonna be the biggest question.
This is our first rodeo, so something's gonna get missed, somebody's gonna get left out, something's gonna happen. But as you did the last time, you changed things and said, that didn't work, we're gonna do that, something different, great. That's what's gonna happen here. So it's not gonna be perfect, but we're gonna try it.
And in the spring, it was pretty good at the high school. We really didn't have a lot and that was totally surprise. So,
Right, I'm just saying that.
yeah,
I know that
like
students may
books
not,
and stuff like that,
they probably aren't going to take them
I don't
home.
see any reason why we can't do that.
I feel like we need to allow that, otherwise they're gonna have, there might be some that
Okay,
don't have what they need.
And Cheryl, I'm sorry would you please clarify that day tomorrow as a PD day rather than just,
cancel school.
right?
Yeah, no students, but a professional development
Correct.
day to get prepared for online learning.
Need it. Okay.
It seems like tomorrow might be a great day then for students to come in.
Yes. I would agree.
To get their items.
Not very many.
If they
We're
don't
not
have
coming
class.
to school. But what?
To get their items because there's no class tomorrow.
Yes.
Correct.
So that'd be a great opportunity and time for them to come into the school to get their items.
Right,
They
but
need.
they need to call the office to do that. Do you think?
I don't care how they
Yeah, I don't
administer
either.
that.
Well,
That's-
yeah, we got that.
Yeah,
We
I'm
got
not
that.
worried about, I don't want to administer
Kids,
that.
if kids need stuff, they'll get their stuff.
Okay.
Unless they're positive COVID cases.
Right, and then they cannot come into the school.
Okay, so
Throw it to them out the door.
it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Oh,
Motion carried. Okay,
question.
go ahead.
What about sports practices? I would assume canceled until November 30th. I mean, we can't have school.
The
we can't have
gating
schools.
criteria, following that, no school activities, remote only.
For the high school age.
If it was back here in the yellow, conditioning practice may continue with modifications.
But one of those weeks is a mandatory week anyways,
It is right now.
so.
But the 16th, though, should have been starting practice.
Okay,
And I just while you mentioned that, we don't have any games or anything to that point, correct, or no?
I don't think so.
I mean, the junior high would have some basketball games and some wrestling tournaments, but that doesn't apply to them, so, correct? This is high school only.
Correct.
The first game is December 4th,
So, yeah, they're gonna have to.
so they'll get 4 days of practice.
It's kind of like winning state football, same scenario. You get 4 days of practice and play your first basketball game.
They might be in better shape.
Yeah, that's true.
We can't control that, I guess. Control the things we can control and,
Well, and hopefully this is what's gonna keep us from being, what's gonna keep us able to play farther. Because if we just get into the season, I know, but this is the hope.
No good option.
There's not.
Yeah.
No good options. COVID's a real thing.
Thank you very much.
Ray, thank you.
You bet.
Okay.
You guys take care.
Thanks again.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. Moving on then on the agenda. Anyone opposed to that?
We have a rest of the agenda.
All right, so next is personnel, correct?
Mhm.
I move we go into an executive session to discuss an individual employee's performance pursuant to non-elected personnel exception under COMA, and the open meeting will resume in the boardroom at 7:56. 10 minutes, okay?
Sure.
Jerome?
Sure.
Okay. So, okay, Callie seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
I
Motion carried. So yeah, we keep the Zoom guys on.
Because we got Tony
Oh,
and
yeah, highly.
Yes.
Every time.
Galen
1 second.
Okay, so, is there a second?
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded to extend, this executive session, to discuss an individual employee's performance pursuant to non-elected personnel exception under COMA, and the open meeting will resume in the boardroom at, 8:03, 5 minutes. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Who's,
Okay,
who
vote.
seconded?
Jerome did.
Jerome, okay.
No, we're gonna keep you, just kidding, go back out.
Motion carried.
Seriously?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
We're in public session.
Go. Now we're not.
Okay, wait a minute.
Cheryl, I'm gonna put you in a weight intermediate.
We're
That
on.
makes you feel any better. I'm totally for it.
Roles that they don't get, right?
You know what I want to know? Did you think it was gonna pass?
That was very helpful.
Did you believe it would pass?
You didn't answer the question.
I was hopeful.
Did you believe it would pass? You had to put money on it. What would you have been?
Are we live right now?
Yeah,
My answer.
Oh, can't say that out loud. I just wonder what you guys thought. That's all.
we've got a short break here. Board members using the facilities.
She already knows what we're doing and
Okay.
she already voted, so.
Oh, okay.
Actually, she made the motion to go, so Kelly made a motion to go into an executive session to discuss confidential student information pursuant to the exception related to actions adversely or favorably affecting a student under coma, and the opening meeting will resume in the boardroom at 8:10. Is there a second?
Second.
Jerome seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
I,
Motion carried.
Was Kelly there?
Yes, Kelly made the motion and voted yes.
Okay. Okay.
Time is stood still.
Okay.
let's just get it all out before the camera goes back on.
Well, Callie does some social work stuff, so. She'll be happy to meet with you afterwards.
some group stuff? Let's
And
go.
by the way, she's got a dozen cinnamon rolls.
Oh, yeah, let's go.
Okay. Do we have an issue with any of these that I can't, that I need to go line by line?
I lost my copy because my computer died, so I don't know what's up.
Okay, back in live session, everybody's back on. You good, Josh? Okay. Next is approving employment, resignations and retirements. Are there any questions, suggestions around that, or do I have a motion to approve as submitted?
I move to approve as submitted.
And I second.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded to approve employment as submitted. All those in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Yeah, just a couple things. The school resource officer, our officer is not being replaced. She's chosen to leave, and we've got the replacement that is going to be here. She will be leaving November 12th and replaced by Leo Lovely as the SRO person. And just the information, according to the sheriff's department that we met with them, that the program is working in a sense that's helped some students that were endangered, and they don't have to follow the same stipulations as DCF. They can come in immediately, look at a situation, remove the child, and while the investigation is taking place. So from that standpoint, we can feel very confident and good about the data that was shared with you all about the fact that they were able to help endangered students, which is so important. And so really happy with that piece of the SRO piece, and that will continue. Sheriff Rob attributes a lot of it to the fact of comfortability in discussing things with the SRO. So having them in the building, allowing them to develop a relationship, et cetera, et cetera. The other thing that is just FYI, the city of Alma has hired a new marshal. He was in today and introduced himself. And so he's coming from the Junction City Police Department and will be wanting to relocate in our community in Alma. So will be that. Just ATS, they have hired a custodial manager, and we filled 3 of the open positions, and 5 of our present, well, now 4 of the present ATS, well, it may be less than that, it may be just 3 of present custodians will be joining ATS as we go through it. But they are been able to fill the positions, and they're starting as soon as tomorrow with training and moving forward, and we will have a custodial manager. The other thing is, real positive thing, K-State with leadership training and the cadre, that they have a cadre that works through 383 in Manhattan, and I'm also using it at Junction City. Mary Devon, who's the former superintendent at Junction City, is in charge of that, and they've asked us if we would like to be a part of it. And so it gives us an opportunity we have nominated or talked with 3 of our teachers as a possibility that them getting in, or they've discussed that they would like to be possibly looking in leadership. And a good thing for us is then it helps them to go through this training through K-State online and in a cadre group to discuss things, and then helps with our situation here of the things that we're doing administratively, that then maybe they could be groomed to move into the next phases. So when and if we would ever choose to leave or have different positions or whatever it may be, then we got people ready to step in, as well as help them lead in buildings as they're seeing what we want to do and getting an understanding of how to do it from Kansas State. So we're really excited about that.
Thank you for that.
Well, we're blessed to have a great relationship with them, and so they were able to do that to us, for us. With us. Maybe, yeah, exactly. Hopefully it's not to us.
Okay? Anything else?
No, sir.
Kelly?
Well, one thing that was a little positive for our state, at least we'll see what happens, is that the consensus revenue estimating group, who does what they think tax collections will be, for this upcoming year, they met on Friday. And if you remember maybe reading in the news when they met in April, they projected like a $1.4 billion loss to the state for this next year. So they reversed a lot of that for this upcoming year and for next year, and only about a 6% reduction or something like that. Now I still don't have my percentages right. So that was a positive, and so hopefully those projections will stay, and we will continue to have revenue coming into our state. So because that will affect obviously the funding that our school district gets, ultimately, because they won't be able to. There's no way that the state can absorb a $1.4 billion loss in revenue and not impact schools.
Right.
So hopefully revenues have been, above projections already for the current fiscal year, and hopefully that will continue, and we will be more in line with the revenue projections for next year.
Very
And I
nice.
just wanted to say that. So, and then I noticed I got 2 alerts that 2 other counties have now reversed their mask mandates. And I know it's not a popular subject, but with the increase in our county, maybe our county should look at that as well.
I'm good.
Yeah,
Thank
I'm
you.
just saying. Okay.
Kelly?
I mean, I just wanna, I know that closing the school or going remote is gonna be a fun and exciting challenge. But I know that the teachers are more than capable, and it's gonna be a good thing. And I'm hoping that it prevents having any further closures. So just ahead of time, I just wanna say thank you to our teachers and our staff, for doing what they have to do in this type of a situation. And so, yeah.
Jerome?
I have some questions. When we compared the numbers from the in-house custodial to the outsourced custodial, we were just comparing labor costs, correct?
No, it included chemicals
And
and their overhead and everything.
paper towels and everything.
Yep.
So we're not gonna have to buy that stuff like we
No.
were, and
And right now, what we'll do, we have surplus for the entire, we basically buy for the year. So they are crediting us $400 a month until ours is gone. So they are taking that and giving us credit for those materials.
we didn't discuss this grant application for the,
Oh, for the sidewalks?
have we decided to close that building next year?
The middle school,
Yes.
it has to have official, the vote was yes, but it has to have an official hearing that we will do in January.
Okay.
And the grant, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but the grant is for engineering. And so it has those in red. They have the #1 priority of those, which would include also, like you said, going through the middle school to the junior high.
And I'm assuming the co-op, especially the co-op, gets an annual audit done every year.
They do.
Can we see their budget?
Sure.
Can that something you can send out to me anyway? All right, that's it.
Jim?
I want to express appreciation to Brad and all the work that you've done for us, Brad, and really appreciate all the time you're putting into to everything, getting everything ready and keeping us up to date on everything. Thanks, Cheryl, for doing all the work that you do. I know it's a lot, and I like Callie. I know the next few weeks for teachers is not going to be necessarily easy, that transition, but we're doing, I think, what's in the best interest for the health of the kids and the teachers. And I want to thank the board members that are in attendance. It's really, I really appreciate that you are showing up, and it shows that you are looking to better the school district by being here. And I appreciate being here. So that's about all I have. One clarification or question I guess I have for Brad is that grant that that the application is going through, is that 3,000 that's paid by the school? Am I understanding that right? And then 12,000 is what the grant is for?
Yeah, it is listed as 3,000 to the school, but we have a grant through the Manhattan Community Foundation to pay for it. So we are not out any money, the district.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good question.
Okay.
But yeah, no,
That's all I had.
and that's why if we were gonna be out anything, I told them we're not interested. And they said, well, and so they got us a grant through the Manhattan Community Foundation.
Tony?
Nothing, thanks.
Brent, there's two things on the chat. I don't
Dawn?
know if it matters.
Oh,
And I don't have anything either, just stay safe and be healthy.
So I had one thing for Josh, I think. As we move into, with sporting activities and our, the pixelate cameras. So a couple things that I've heard, there's a lot of patron feedback on those cameras and the audio. Like, maybe we ought to be posting signs that say, hey, audio conversations held in the stands can be held on, that are projected online. Or is there an opportunity for us to change the locations of the microphones? To, say for the gym, can we put the microphone out in the middle of the gym up where our speakers are overhead? Because they need to hear the announcer anyways and not the background noise. I guess that was one, as we move to that style where there's not going to be anybody there and this is all going to be online, if our kids are playing, there might need to be a little refinement around that area.
We can check with the company or the installers and ask, but to my knowledge, when I was watching him install it, I don't believe there's any sort of like detachable or like extendable microphone. It's all in like one solid unit.
Okay.
And I don't believe there's any way to, take the microphone out, run it somewhere else. But, posting signs is a good idea, and maybe we can just.
It's not gonna be a problem if there's nobody there.
We're just blocking off, that part of the stands, to where hopefully maybe if nobody's sitting within like 20 or 30 feet around it, maybe it wouldn't pick up such
feedback.
Yeah.
Then the other thing that I have may be more directed towards Miss Hutley for the high school, but it would be really cool if we had some sort of announcing program that was maybe held by a student led group that the biggest feedback I got from people that are watching that are, I don't know what kid's doing what at what time.
Yeah.
And it's hard for them to hear the announcers over the speakers. So maybe if there was an opportunity for us to do something like that, I think that would be cool.
We looked at and haven't moved on this very much, but had talked about having maybe Mr. Prager and the ones that were the group of kids that were doing the
Charger podcast.
Yeah, the podcast actually provide commentary for the games. So like as an experience builder, we did talk about that. But
that'd be cool.
You're right, it hasn't gone anywhere, but we had some kids in mind actually that would be really good. So
I think if we end up going to where there's no spectators, I think the cooler things that we can do gets people more involved,
Yeah.
and enjoy that experience that much more, and makes it less of an issue.
Yeah.
So,
We have looked at the possibility too, not a guarantee, but looked at the possibility, if that's the case, of having some kind of live feed for the old gym so that people could watch JV games and C-team games and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
we would need someone to run the camera, but we even thought about signing that out to
Right.
parents of the kids on the team, at least one of them at a time would get to watch, and then they could move the camera. So that was the limitation in the old gym, is the way that it's zoomed out or whatever, it didn't really follow the goals very well. But
Oh.
anyway, we looked at having someone, all you'd have to do is do this to it,
A
so.
little refinement to that program. It's a great program, and I appreciate everything we've done to do that, because that is really cool. One of those things that now that we're experiencing, if we can make a few changes to make it better, that's not all bad. Okay, I have nothing else. So I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Kelly
Second.
and Callie.
Second.
Callie seconded and Kelly made the motion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carried. Meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Just FYI to the board that's here and out there in TV land, there are a dozen cinnamon rolls that an anonymous source.
No.
I'm just kidding, yeah.
Yeah. For each board member, as appreciation for their work on the bond. So just, that they're here. Don't count them when you come to pick them up, but they're here right now.
And the sooner the better. 'Cause
Yeah, the sooner the better.
Teachers are gonna need them.
You can stay quiet.
I was thinking maybe the freshness.
You can stay
but
plain.
That too.
Teachers might need them tomorrow.
Thanks again.
Basically.
See you all.
Here tonight, we don't get.
Yeah.
I feel like
Thank
that,
you.
you don't, you snooze, you lose. You're not on, you're not in person.
Yes.
So.
You don't get rolled.
It would be for community involved, the community.
Yeah.
And I suppose I could take Tony's to it.
I asked, KASB about it, and, they
Well, that's